those nice banana trees. So that one there, that's a peach. You can see the banana tree behind it. Another banana. These are just some dragon fruit, which we're still trying to figure out what we're going to do with after we need to get them transplanted and set up for for winter, because they won't survive below 38 degrees. Those are some plums. That one right there's a pawpaw tree, which they're sometimes you'll hear them called like carrion fruit or something like that. It's because their flowers emit a smell of rotting flesh, and they're pollinated by flies actually, so it's kind of a neat fruit. We're going to get a few more next year. We actually haven't got to try one yet. We haven't had any produce yet for us, so it's a little bit disappointing, but orchard's coming around, so getting the ground leveled out, and should hopefully have some good production next year, but certainly it'll be a lot better in 2 or 3 years. Hey guys, welcome back to Ironside Ranch. You can see we're at the well house again today. We're making progress. We got the sheeting up today, so pretty much I'm on standstill until we get the rest of our fittings in. So it took me a couple hours to get this all done this morning, but we got the roof framed up, but have not put the metal down yet. I don't want to put the metal on because I don't want to be trying to work in here. That metal's going to bake it in here real bad too. So it's going to be like working in a crock pot while I'm trying to hook up all those fittings. So I'll wait till the water's all hooked up, and then we'll put the roof on. So it's coming along, but been trying to keep you guys kind of updated about this. But the reason I keep sitting out here is actually I end up working out here, and then this is where I end up doing my videos at. So right behind the camera is the orchard that y'all were just looking at. So I'm literally sitting right there as I'm shooting the orchard scene, or sitting right here. So it's kind of a nice spot, and so we'll be plumbing water lines all around this orchard, so that next year everything should be on drip irrigation. We've been using sprinklers, but we'll probably put everything on drip irrigation. We may use a few sprinklers just because some plants, particularly the bananas, supposedly will do better with a drip irrigation, or with a sprinkler rather than a drip irrigation. Everything else will probably be on drip, so it'll be some combination. Great news is that when we're on the well, our water is virtually free, right? Besides a little bit of electricity, it's virtually free, and eventually we'll be on solar to where it won't cost us anything, but that's a few years down the road yet. Now, let's talk about this corn article that just came out. So I'll post a link down below, and they're talking about the corn production for this year, and this is really interesting. So there was a late planting this year because people didn't want to plant without knowing they had the fertilizer, and then they got the fertilizer in, then they planted. Then we're dealing again with droughts, and in some areas we had a really wet spring. I remember here, one of the issues was with getting hay is you couldn't get hay down here because it was raining too much, and the guys couldn't. That you have to dry the hay. So if you don't know how hay is done, just in the simplest terms, you cut it, they dry it, they windrow it, so they have a big machine. That's that one with the big little twirly rakes on it, and it throws it into piles. They'll fluff it up, and it's called tedding, and they end up drying it a little bit more. Once it gets to the moisture content that the farmer wants, he'll ted it into into the windrows, right? So your rows, and then he'll drive over that with the baler. The baler then picks it up and basically compacts it in this round bale, right? Square bales are not used on large farms. They're just not efficient, and round bales work a lot better. Round bales shed water better, so they're easier to store outside. So square bales are only used on like kind of smaller farms, but even us, we go through too much hay to use square bales. There's a lot of work here on square bales, so round bales is pretty much what everybody does now. So that's the general principle. So that hay has to be dry in order for so you have to, you got to get some rain to get the grass to grow, and then after you cut it, you need a given period of time, and it changes on where you're at. Obviously, if you're in Texas where it's real dry, it's gonna dry faster than here in Alabama where we have a lot of humidity in the air. But anyway, so I talked to the local farmers. They'll tell you exactly how long to wait. They have it down to a science. but they have to have that drying period in there. They can't bale it wet. You can't bale it with over a certain percent of moisture content, or the bales will start to biodegrade, and worse than that, you can actually get a fire in them. Those hay bales can go up in fire. That's why you never store hay with your tractor. You never store hay in your equipment shed or anything like that. Hay is always stored separately, or at least it should be. Sometimes, we don't always have the option of doing things the ideal way. Sometimes we just have to do things the way that we can. So, but that's the ideal way. The ideal way is to store hay separately. So anyways, so we've had these issues to get things planted, and then we have the fertilizer issue. We all know that fertilizer was not only hard to come by, but it was about 3 to 4 times as expensive as it had been. And you combine that with things like the John Deere strike, so people were having trouble getting parts for their tractors, their big combines and stuff like that. So the overall corn production, we're having a very poor crop this year on corn production. The numbers are all in this article, but the number that stood out to me the most was that overall, even beyond the fact that we have a poor production, the production that's there is 5% less than the total of last year. So it's down 5%. Now, 5% may not seem like a whole lot, but in combination with lots of poor quality feed, as well as being down 5%, 5% is actually a pretty big number when you think about it. That's a pretty massive percentage to just cut off the top of the market where the corn is used. And for those of you that don't understand where the corn is used at, corn is used in animal feeding operations. So cows, pigs, chickens, everything eats it. It's used, obviously we use it in things like, grits and cornmeal and corn flour and stuff like that. I'm not talking about corn on the cob. Corn on the cob is not a necessity for us to live. It's something that we like at 4th of July, and it's nice, but it's certainly not a necessity to us. What we're talking about the other 95% of the corn that's produced in this country that is not sweet corn. The vast majority of corn that is produced is corn for cornmeal, corn flour, grits, and animal feed. That's what, and the big one being animal feed, and I should say ethanol too. So the corn has this 5% decrease has actually a pretty catastrophic effect on us, because it's talking about something that we already have an increasing demand on, right? Because we use it for so many things, and now we're decreasing the supply. So we add that in with our inflation that we're dealing with right now. Looks like we're going to have corn prices going up astronomically next year. Guys, I have been saying this for the last 6 months. Anybody that's been following this channel knows and can vouch for the fact that I've been saying this, that the wheat, the corn prices, all the stuff that's harvested this year is going to be more expensive next year. The corn is the first one that we're seeing. We're seeing the harvest come in, and we're seeing the numbers, and well, not the harvest come in. We're seeing the numbers because they're doing an estimation. They estimated it based on, if I remember right, check the article, it's 2,000 farms. 2,000 farms they sampled, and that's where they're getting this 5% number. So that's what's really scary. It could be a little bit worse, could be a little bit better, but it's right around 5%. So bottom line is, guys, start stocking up food now. Start being ready, figuring out how to grow some of this stuff for yourself. For the time being, it's still a free country, and we're allowed to grow our food ourselves. And you need to be figuring some of that out. So we're actually going to be planting some feed corn for us next year, so that we can grind it into things like grits and flour and cornmeal and that sort of thing. And so normally we just buy it, but next year we're going to grow our own. Anyways, guys, that's where we're at. That's, like I said, this is just going to continue to get worse. So I'll let you guys go with that, and we will see y'all tomorrow morning.